It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Welcome to another episode of Remodel Revolution Radio. I'm your host, Alex Guthrie. I'm so glad you're here with us today. We're coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas, down here at the world headquarters of the Remodel Revolution show. So glad you're here with us. Today's show is going to be really a lot of fun. We have a new friend, Mr. Dick Kawalek, from Cleveland, Ohio. He's an architect, and we're going to talk about attic conversions. And then my old friend, the elusive, hard to see sometimes, especially when he's not here, Mr. Matt Mitchell. Hello, Mr. Mitchell.
Hi.
How are you?
I am groovalicious. How are you?
So glad you could make it.
Well, I thought I would bless you with my presence today.
Yeah. Well, I was ripping on you pretty good for the last couple of weeks.
Good.
So you deserved it.
There's no question.
And it will continue every chance I get.
Turnabout's found fair play.
So I was reading an article in a magazine, and one of the things that I love doing as a remodeling contractor, I love doing attic conversions. I love now, Matt, I know you've probably done your fair share of them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the things that I love about them is that you're taking this sort of dusty, old, yucky area in your attic. Usually it's over a garage, and you're converting it to a really cool room for various reasons. But I came across an article really just a couple of days ago, and the author was Dick Kawalek, who's an architect out of Cleveland, Ohio. You know, that's the rock and roll capital of the world. And Dick, are you a rock and roll guy?
Well, yes, of course.
Well, you have to be, man. You're in Cleveland.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How are you, sir?
It may not be groovalicious, but I am certainly a rock and roll.
Well, there you go. Well, it's almost imperative, right?
Yeah. And Cleveland rocks.
Cleveland rocks.
Yes, yeah. It does.
For sure.
It's a fabulous town.
For sure. So you wrote an article, and you told me that article is about 10 years old, about converting an attic space. And there's some things that I wanted to touch on with you, because I know that I get this from a lot of people when I look at their houses, and there's almost always a consideration, particularly if they're thinking of adding room. Can we just do it in the attic? And there's some things that I have to explain to people that you have to look for. It's a great way to utilize existing space, but there's some things that have to be done that you have to compensate for. And one of the things is an attic conversion cheap space? What are your feelings about that?
Yes, and of course, no. Depends on how far you go. Mm-hmm. Usually the attic space itself is there, which is very good. The volume itself is there. If the floor joists are sufficient for to be used as a functional area, it can be very inexpensive space. Mm-hmm. You do have to finish it off. You may have to restructure it. You'll have to insulate it, cool it, heat it, add electricity.
And access.
All these things that you know very well.
Well, one of the first things that they say to me is, well, there's no foundation, so it must be cheap.
Well, yeah, that helps a little bit. You might say maybe 15% of the cost of a comparative building. Uh-huh. Doesn't take up any more room on your lot if the attic is already there as well.
And one of the things that I explain to people that are considering this is there's actually you have low plate line, we call low plate line walls, but they're short walls that are in the attic, and they're built into, because typically your roof is coming down, and Ziggy's got some, he's going to pop up some pics that I sent to him. And so in this picture right here, you can see where the rafters go down at an angle and they create a low wall. We call it a low plate line wall. Dick, what is your rule of thumb for how tall you want that short wall?
You know, that's a very good question, Alex. It depends on what you want to do in the attic. We often stop at 3'6" or 4 foot if it's going to be an attic in a bedroom, for example. But you really have to look at the function of the space that's going to be in the attic, because you can go down to 3 foot, 3'6" if it's a desk, if it's a deep desk, for example. The slope of the attic rafters makes a big difference in how close you can approach whatever you put in the against the knee wall.
So the more extreme the slope, the higher this or steeper that the slope is, the closer you can get to that side wall without bumping your head.
Absolutely, absolutely right.
And another thing that's really interesting about those little walls, they make fantastic storage areas.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they do.
And the kids and the cats can all hide there.
Love it. Together.
That's right. That's right.
That's where you store the junk that you're not going to touch for a while.
Forever,
Right.
till you move. You go, oh, there it is.
Right. Yeah.
Well, when you're talking about the flooring, now, when you go up in your attic, you're typically going to see a lot of wires. You might see some air conditioning ducts, or you might see a gas line or some plumbing that's laying on top of those ceiling joists or the floor joists of the attic. And one of the things that I've done in the past, if I don't have the room, I can't get them in there, and I don't want to rewire everything, is I'll use a system of gussets. And a gusset is a small piece of plywood. It can be 1/4-inch plywood. And we will actually nail it to the side of the joist, and then we'll take a 2x4 and we'll raise it up maybe the 3/4 of an inch where it gets above all that stuff, and nail that gusset on the side of the 2x4. We'll do a series of those with glue and small nails, and that'll actually strengthen that joist, so your floor joist stiffens up and can carry a heavier load, more of a furniture load that you would have in this type of room. Now, if you still need more space in there, let's talk about dormers.
Okay.
So explain to our audience what exactly a dormer is. I have to have this conversation with people when I'm talking about these spaces.
Well, the dormer is any extension horizontally through the roof line that would permit a window or a door or better living space inside. They come in many shapes and sizes. The easiest kind is what we call a shed dormer, where you have new rafters that are installed on a very low slope, starting at the ridge of the attic and continuing out to the outside wall or near the outside wall. And that often provides a good volume of space underneath, a lot of headroom. Very simple dormer to construct. You have to be a little careful about the structure, as you know.
So what we're doing with the dormers, we're extending a perpendicular roof to the existing roof.
Exactly.
Right. So we're going out away from the existing ridge, and we're creating a new roof that actually gains floor space, which would typically go to the outside wall. So where the rafters are going down right now and sitting on the outside wall in your attic, the span of that dormer, which could be 5 feet or 7 feet or sometimes bigger, that would actually become a wall. And so you're really grabbing a lot of space, and it's cheap, easy space to grab.
Relatively cheap, easy.
Well, yeah.
Right.
It's all relative, right?
Everything, as you know, is relative.
So another thing that I really like about these is your ability to insulate them. They're perfect spaces to do a complete foam insulation where you can address the floor and the ceiling and the walls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent choice. We're using it quite a lot up here. We have big problems with snow,
What's
ice
that?
damming.
What's that? Is that white stuff?
I've heard
That
of
white
that.
stuff. I don't know.
I've seen it in movies. I thought it was just
We don't know.
CGI.
We don't know what that is in Texas.
Oh, come on. I know that it does snow in Texas. Believe me,
No.
I've been there.
We get ice storms.
only for a day.
Yeah.
Yes, the sun comes out and melts it all away.
Well, when you're air conditioning these spaces, one of the things that has really helped a lot in a lot of room additions, conversions, things like that, is we have these mini split systems. Now, last week I had a guy from Fujitsu on, Andy Armstrong, and we talked about, we did a show about the mini splits. And they are perfect for this application because a lot of people, now Dick, I talk to people and they're like, well, I'll just use my air conditioner. This guy should read. My house is fine. I've got tons of extra air. I'll just pump it in there so I don't have to pay for air conditioning.
Yeah.
You better talk to your mechanical contractor about that one. It's not a good idea.
Especially in Texas. I'm sure you get some hot days out there.
Well, and when you foam the floor, the ceilings, the wall, when you got everything encapsulated in that foam, these little mini splits are perfect. Perfect because they are super energy efficient, and you're not going to require a ton of air like you would in a normal room.
No, that's correct. And especially if you have the opportunity to hang them high on the wall for air conditioning purposes, they generally do a great job of heating as well. And when we foam the attics and foam the sidewalls, a lot of times they don't even have to come on.
So one of the places that people do these attic conversions often is above a garage. And so your garage has a roof, an attic above it. It kind of looks like, great space to capture, and oftentimes it is. But one of the things that you need to do, you really have to think through, is safety issues with that. It's not unusual that people park a car in a garage and leave it running or forget it's running. This happens way more than it should. Carbon monoxide poisons the people above it. It's happened many times. So if you're going to convert attic space over your garage, you really need to put a carbon monoxide detector in the garage and in the room above it. And how many times do people pull their cars in the garage and it starts burning? It happens. Make sure you have a fire. It'd be best to have a fire suppression system, but at least have a fire detector in there, a flame detector, in case something like that happens. What, am I missing anything?
Yes.
What?
No.
Be sure, because people often are doing these conversions and it's kind of a second thought and they're piecemealing it together, which is a bad idea. Egress. You got to make sure you have windows and escape routes from up there, because sometimes people will have an old fixed glass window. It doesn't open at all, or they'll get another window. It's too small. So you have to kind of use your imagination if you're not don't have access to a code book itself. Imagine a firefighter with full gear on has to make it in through that window without breaking it. That would qualify as egress, so that you can quickly get in and out.
I always found it interesting that when I figured out that the fire department was passing these laws to protect the firemen, I'm like, what's up with that?
Well, it's not entirely that way.
No, I'm being facetious.
What they're thinking of is they want to be able to get a fireman in that window
Right.
to save somebody if there is a person inside.
Right.
And for that, they have to climb through a window with an oxygen tank on their back, and their boots and their gear, et cetera. And it takes some space.
It does.
So,
And
very important. Yes.
One of the
and
things. Go ahead.
the IRC, the International Residential Code, generally requires, especially for bedrooms, a second means of escape or egress in or out of the room. And that usually means a window that has about a 5 square foot opening, which is hard to achieve in a double hung window. It's possible in a casement window. And most window manufacturers, however, list this on their catalogs as to which of their windows satisfy egress requirements for the code. So very important consideration to have that second means of escape from a room.
And one other thing that I've dealt with, and I've been very, very careful with over the years, is if you have a enclosed access, like a stairway that's enclosed, has walls and maybe a door at the bottom, making sure that that is built fireproof, not, with a 2-hour firewall.
Absolutely. Not only that, you need around here at least a 1 hour fire separation between a garage, for example, below, especially with the garage below, and you got to be careful that there are no penetrations through that. A lot of people like to poke a few wires and ducts up through the garage ceiling to get them up into the attic, but that is always an opportunity for carbon monoxide or any kind of dangerous gases getting through.
So do you achieve that with sheetrock? Do you just double layer sheetrock, or how do you normally achieve that?
Normally with around here, at least a single layer of sheetrock, but it has to be fire rated sheetrock. And it needs to be fire taped, where it doesn't have to be smooth necessarily, but it does need to be taped and spackled over.
Dick?
There can be no penetrations. Any doorway that might lead from a garage to a space above it, whether it be an attic or a second floor, any such doorway would have to be fire rated for at least 1 hour and have a closer as well.
I really appreciate you coming on with us today. It's been really, really educational and fun, and I hope you'll come and do some more shows with us, and we can talk about other things.
Well, thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure being on here, and pleasure talking to you, of course. And I just want to point out that I do love attics. I love remodeling them. I'm going to swing this video around a little bit and show you that my office is in an attic.
It sure is.
Attic of my garage.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, well, there we are.
I learned the hard way.
There you go. There you go. Well, Dick, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope you'll come back with us in the future.
Terrific. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Pleasure talking to you.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment. The hardest working and arguably most important system in our homes is our air conditioning and heating system. It heats the air, it cools the air, and it filters the air. That's why it's so critical to have it checked and maintained by the very best professionals available. It's time to contact Total Air and Heat at totalair.com. Get that system pruned and tuned. If you want to have the very best experience, you've got to hire the very best company. Total Air's employees are honest, well-trained, and thoroughly background checked. I never have to worry about sending their technicians out to my clients' homes. Family owned and operated for 3 generations, Total Air and Heat has been a fixture in North Dallas for over 60 years. Total Air is a proud dealer of the Trane air conditioning systems, and you know how hard it is to stop a Trane, so give them a call at 972-881-0020. That's 972-881-0020, or contact them at totalair.com today. Welcome back to Remodel Revolution. The rest of this hour, this is going way too fast. It's going to be dedicated to my friend, the elusive but very talented Matt Mitchell, James Andrews Custom Homes, and I've renamed his company. I'm calling it James Andrews Custom Homes of Dallas. I don't know if that's right or not. But that way they know where you are.
All right.
Or where you're supposed to be. You're never where you're supposed to be.
I guess if you're paying enough, I'll be
Matt,
wherever you want me to be.
This is part 3 of our series, The Creators, where I've been interviewing builders that this is part 2, I'm sorry, that build homes with specific types of construction. The last one we talked to Richard Miller was about, he does building science, and he does advanced framing, and we talked about how that helps and how that helps with the style of home that he builds. Matt builds with SIPs. That's SIPS. It's structural insulated panels. And these are kind of like, well, we call them Oreo cookie homes, because if you look at the panel, it looks like a big plywood Oreo cookie. Matt and I are always thinking about food, you know. So Matt brought one with him, and he's got that. There you go. And so this is a panel that Matt uses. So Matt, yeah, go ahead and put it in front of your face. That'll help.
Yeah.
We'll get it situated here. Can you get it over here where we can see? Right there. Right there's perfect. Yeah. There you go. Let's tell us about how you build these things. What is a SIPS house?
A SIP house uses this material as the building envelope, which is the exterior walls and the roof of the structure. It's nothing new, been around since the 1930s. So it had a lot of buildings, commercial and residential. They've first started using them.
I didn't realize it had been around that long.
Yeah,
Wow.
The military was looking for a way to build walk-in refrigerators out in the field and be able to break them down and move them and rebuild them again. And a company in Minnesota took up the challenge and kind of came up with the concept. That famous architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, kind of glommed onto them because they're just incredibly strong, just ridiculously strong. And he didn't care about the insulative qualities so much. He didn't like air conditioning. What he really cared about is the spans. You can get these big, beautiful spans out of them. And
is that because basically the entire thing is a structural beam? Essentially?
Yes.
So that should explain in the picture how this thing's put together.
Sure. So let me deconstruct a little bit.
Okay.
And tell you what's going on. So if this is what we would call sill plate, mud sill, whatever.
So that sits down on the concrete.
On the concrete, on the foundation. Okay. And this is same that would be done in any other type of construction. So this is nothing new, nothing different. And we take these SIP panels, I take a set of plans, send it into a SIP factory, and they cut out all my windows, all my doors, all my roof angles, pitches, everything in a kind of a pristine environment.
So as long as you get it right, they get it right?
Yeah. Good information in, good information out. It's shipped out to our site in a panelized form. We put our base plates down first, just like we would normally do, and the SIP panels go on top of that.
So they just kind of slip over the top.
Yeah. They are in a nominal width. This is the skinniest one that we would do. It's a 4.5-inch wide SIP panel. The foam is 3.5 inches.
So it's the same width as a typical 2x4
2x4
house.
So so it's designed so that it'll slip right over the top of that.
Got it.
And you can get these in increasing widths that would fit over a 2x6. So that would be a 6.5-inch SIP, or would it fit over a 2x8 or a 2x10?
Whatever you want.
Yes, whatever the spec you're trying to meet. If you were building in Antarctica, which they have SIP structures in Antarctica, they use 2x12 because it's incredibly energy efficient.
Or if you have a wife over 50, you might want that 2x6 panel because, well, she's always cold.
She is, yeah. My wife is considerably under 50. She is always freezing cold.
Always cold. Yeah, I get it.
So these slip over the top. We just use a bead of sealant. They go over the top. We nail them to the base plate from the sides, on both sides, inside and outside. They are connected by a spline. And there's different types of splines. This is kind of what you would normally see. You see these holes in the middle. These are put in by the factory, and these are wire chases so that we can run electrical through these. So we would just run the bead of sealant there.
Now, when you're speccing this thing, I assume that they'll do the same hole for plumbing. if
Yeah.
you wanted them to.
Absolutely. They will do these at whatever height you want. They typically do them at a standard outlet height, about 18 inches, and a standard switch height around 44 inches, but they'll put them wherever you want them. Also, vertically through the walls. Every 4 feet, there's another chase coming down.
I see. So
you can run.
when you're putting a plug in this thing, do you have to cut the plywood?
Yes.
So you're kind of your carpenter probably has to do that.
Or the electrician.
An electrician with a saw.
Yes.
Okay. He's not a union guy.
So, and some factories will cut them out. If you tell them where to do it, the factory will cut them out. And,
In theory, you should be able to do that.
yeah,
But,
I mean, not difficult at all to do. Put the spline in, nail it to the sides, and then you join one panel to another panel, just like this. Bead of sealant all the way
it's
around.
almost too easy.
It's.
I mean, it almost looks like something a third grader could do. Do you have more than a third grade education?
Do you want me to prove it?
I mean, you're still playing with blocks and stuff.
It's exactly what it is. It is that simple, and it's intimidating to do it at first because you think it just can't be this simple. And it really is. Your framing crew does not have to be as sophisticated. When you have a roof with several different pitches all coming to one point, and the trigonometry would typically have to be figured out in the field of how to make that all work, which usually, if you go out to a job site, you see the framers and it looks like this.
The thumb.
Right.
Yeah, right. So
All these pitches, it's all that.
So
math
for
has
those of
been
you
done
that
in-
aren't watching this ordeal that I'm in the middle of with this guy right now, he's showing me how he lines walls up with his thumb. He's truly a professional.
That's right. But all that math, all those cuts, everything have been done in a factory and shipped out. So all the math, all the trigonometry has already been done for them. So it's
They just got to put panel A with panel B
Yes.
and blah blah blah.
Everything is labeled, which panel is which. They send out shop drawings that show.
So
in
we have
great
a
detail.
few pictures that Ziggy's going to put up for us from your PowerPoint to kind of show some of the construction and some of the styles. And I picked through them to make sure you weren't in any of them.
That's best. Yes.
Okay, so that first one was that's just a picture. I wanted to show that you can do that style. Now you're not limited to any particular.
Not limited to any type of style.
Okay.
So it's lends itself to kind of whatever you can dream of.
Well, let's show a few pictures of the actual construction.
Yeah, that's
is-
what the truck looks like when it shows up. So you will need a rough terrain forklift to get these off of the truck, and that's okay, pretty easy.
Yeah.
And you can use that forklift to move things around and lift stuff up to a second floor. Or
Well, they're
whatever.
using them now everywhere anyway.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
not uncommon on job sites at all.
Okay, so we're going to look at a picture of some of the construction. This is where you've got the panels.
Have everything laid out. You can
Laid
see
out.
their numbers on the sides and tops and edges, and that's where all the panels are labeled. And you
So
know
if
where
you know
to lay them.
numbers bigger than 10, you can put this together.
That's right.
I'm safe. I could do
You
this.
you absolutely could do this. And if you go back to that last picture, you always start when you start assembling these. You start with a corner, and whenever I'm working with a framing crew that's never done it, once they do one corner, it kind of clicks.
It just falls. They
They
together.
get it in their head, and they are absolutely 100% of the time blown away by how incredibly strong these are. If you completely frame a house, you literally can rip it apart with your hands.
Really.
You cannot rip these apart with your hands. They're
Well, one of
dramatically strong.
the things that I like to tell people is that particularly when they're telling me what they want me to do on a remodel is simple. I have to explain to them in short order, your house was not built to be remodeled. That's just thank God.
right.
So, but with these SIPS houses, everything is structural. Everything has a reason for being where it is and how it's put in.
Correct. Almost all of the load of the house is going to come down through the outsides of the house, which takes a lot of the pressure off any internal walls. You still might have some load-bearing walls inside, but
much like a commercial building where you essentially all the interior walls are what we would call petitions, and a petition is a non-load bearing wall. It gives you a great deal of flexibility with how you want to do a layout.
Absolutely. And you don't use the SIPS panels as interior walls. You could, if I don't know why you would want to spend the money, but if somebody had a reason, you could. But just traditional framing on the interior of the house, it's really not a whole lot of different. And when we join corners or roof panels, we have those
little sheetrock screws.
Yeah, these little bitty screws that are used.
How long is that thing?
This one's about 13 inches long.
Wow.
So if you have a roof panel, if I had a 10-inch roof panel coming down on the top, you would use these to come
I see.
down. There would be top plate in there. So there's various different lengths of SIP screws depending upon the application. So if you're making a corner of a house like this, you'd have a much shorter SIP screw. It may only be 5 inches long.
So let me ask you, I got a question for you. This I don't want any smoke coming out of your ears. This happens every now and then when I ask Matt questions. If I have a traditionally framed house, and I wanted to, and I want to just do a super insulated, energy efficient addition. Is there any reason I couldn't use a SIPS panel for the addition?
Absolutely, I've absolutely done that.
Have you done that?
And they work phenomenally. Particularly, you talked about earlier on the garage and having to run a duct from the house all the way to this garage. Now you're looking at having to create a separate HVAC system
zone.
Because these are so energy efficient, your heating and cooling load is so small, you actually might be able to accomplish that without spending a huge amount of money. Or if it's a pretty big addition, you can use mini splits or something like that.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about the technologies that we have available to us now. And part of it is that we're building smarter. We're just building smarter. And structurally, we're better. Mechanically, we're better. And this genre of home lends itself to that. I want to ask you about the roof. So essentially, when you put the roof on this house, it sits on the outside walls like any roof. And then it sits in the, so do you have to have anything in the center to hold everything up, or is it all just self-supporting?
You might. It all depends on the size of the house. Often it is self-supporting because you can get these tremendously long spans. So in your attic space, there's no rafters up there. It's just clean space. There's no built-in anything. So that's a picture of just one single SIP panel. It's just one long panel.
That is amazing. So that entire panel that guy's standing on is one long panel.
Yeah.
Wow.
And as an example of just how strong they are, after that is all framed up, literally you could crane up a truck and put it on top of it, and it'll withhold.
So when you have all these put together, how are you sealing the joints, or do you need to do anything different with them?
I go around. I use a type of sealant. It's a caulk, and it's designed for an exterior use. And because I'm using big panels, I don't have a whole lot of seams to work with, so my points of failure are actually very few. That's kind of an example of a house, if you can see it there. You can see that's the roof. There's no rafters or anything.
So
just
literally you
space.
can use every square inch of this house. There's no reason, even the attic, everything.
So you want to talk about a garage conversion or an attic conversion? Well, you've already got all your insulation and everything. It's already done. So very, very simple.
One of the things that I've noticed a lot lately is Dallas is every square inch of dirt is being turned into something.
Yeah.
We're turning dirt like crazy around here. Look like a bunch of cotton farmers. Yeah, only houses are going up, not cotton. And the fascinating thing to me is that they're building communities right next to major highways. I mean, they're literally, there's a service road and then there's an apartment complex or housing development. And this is the type of construction I think that would really be beneficial in that setting because of noise.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I drive by there and I go, I don't think I could live in a place where you just have this drone 24 hours a day of noise. But I would think that the SIP houses would really, really help with that.
They really do great with noise, and I will say that with the caveat. They are phenomenal at knocking back noise, abating noise in really high frequencies and mid-range. Once you get down to the low-range frequencies, they aren't particularly phenomenal with noise. So it depends on what type of noise. I just built a house, a SIP house, and it backed up to our train system here in Dallas. And outside, it was pretty noisy. It was about 87, 88 decibels. And after we got everything closed in and blocked in, the noise level of that train dropped down to about 49 decibels, which, as a point of comparison, human speech averages at about 60 decibels. So you could still hear it, but it was really quiet, and it wasn't any big deal. And I was just literally talking to the owner yesterday and asked him how you like it. He's only been in the house for about 4 months, and he just kind of laughed. He said, you don't even notice it. So they are really great for
because by the same token, like watching football on the inside of the house.
Right.
What are the decibels when you're screaming at the TV?
Oh, yeah, you're arcing up incredibly loud. 100? Over 100? Depends if your team's winning or you're cursing.
When your wife's mad at you.
Yes.
We can't do anything about that, can we?
No.
But we could build a room on the inside of the house out
There are
of this.
scientists at NASA still trying to figure out why they are mad at us.
Right. Well, that was really, really interesting. Now, energy-wise, we got about 3 minutes in this segment. Give us some points about energy and how what the cost of operating these houses.
Yeah, it dramatically goes down. How much energy does it save? Well, it depends on how thick of a panel you are using to build your house. And you need to come up with a specification before you really design the house. What exactly do you want to accomplish? If you want to do a passive house like they do in all of Europe, we're starting to see more and more of, these are phenomenal for that, which gets your energy load down to 90% below what a typical house would have. So a huge savings. So moving on, when you build a house, when I build a house like these and you put it all together correctly, I expect it to last 500 years. I
interviewed some Russian builders, and they were like touring around the U.S. and we interviewed them, and they said, I said, how do you like, the way we build houses here? And they said, we build them like crap. They only last 40 years. And I said, yeah, well, he goes, we build ours to last 400 years.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. He goes, yeah, but we keep running out of work.
Yeah, it's true. New houses, stick houses are designed really to last 60 to 80 years, 100 if you take care of them.
Yeah.
So if you look in the neighborhoods that we are remodeling and tearing down.
Let's talk a little bit about you. You are this year, you got talked into or suckered into, however you want to put it, being the, next year you're going to be the incoming president of the local Builders Association,
that
the Dallas
is
Builders
correct.
Association.
About another year, I will take over the reins.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what they were thinking.
This is your opportunity, Matt, to really get in trouble. But hey, congratulations, because that's a real honor when your peers invite you to do that.
Yeah, it really is, and it's very humbling, and it makes me kind of scratch my head and going, okay.
Well, you'll do that. You'll do that at the end of the first year.
That's exactly right.
When you scratch your head and go, "Thank you for that."
That's what everyone else is going to be on. Did we asked him to do this?
Yeah, right. Well, I volunteered for this. Wow, what'd they have on you? Here's something that I think is interesting. So we have a little in the news now, and I have a couple of articles, and I knew Matt would have a lot to say about this. And this is from Remodeling Magazine. It's an online magazine. It says the number of women employed in construction in the construction industry, and this is residential construction, grew substantially in 2018. I guess these are the most recent statistics they have, to 1.1 million. A total reached prior to the Great Recession. We'll call that the Great Depression because that's what it was. As the construction skilled labor shortage remains a key challenge, adding new workers is important. It says that during the last recession, the number of female construction workers declined by almost 30% to 807,000, and now it's up to about 1 million. This is 970,000. And tell me your thoughts on women in construction and how you, as president of one of the largest building associations in the country, are going to make a difference.
We're seeing it more and more often in all of the trades. It's not uncommon to go to a job site and there are women electricians, plumbers, whatever, and they're phenomenal. They do a great job just like anybody else. And I kind of treat them just like anybody else. You give any subcontractor clear direction, you're probably going to get really good product out of them. And they're phenomenal. So yeah, it's growing here as well, all over the world, I expect.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because women are becoming such a larger part of that type of workforce.
Sure.
For sure. And you know, the problem is they're so much smarter than men before we know it.
Yeah.
Before we know it, we already are answering to them. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting and exciting. And one of the series that I do, so if you go to the Remodel Revolution Radio on YouTube, to our YouTube channel, we have done interviews, and actually try the podcast. It's probably better because this is before we were video, but the podcast has interviews. It's called Women in Construction. And I've interviewed several women. I think I'm up to 5 now that are in the construction industry. And it was fascinating talking to them about, and these are ladies that have done everything from inherited a company that they're still running, and some of them have started the companies. It's fascinating, their journeys and experience in doing this. And I think it's such a welcome change in our industry from being just totally male to being having these ladies in here that bring an incredible dynamic to this industry and have changed it dramatically in the last 20 years. Also in the news, I found an article that I thought was really interesting, and it is where they're using drones now to inspect roofs for insurance companies.
Yeah.
And this whole AI thing, and I don't know if you consider drones AI. I don't know. Maybe they're going to be delivering our packages to us. So they got a little intelligence. This whole part of technology that's introducing itself to our industry is fascinating to me. That we have robotics and we have these drones, and have you had any dealings with this yet?
I have not. I think that's a great idea because the roof is something that's so infrequently inspected or very closely looked at. Builders often won't get up on the roof. Another reason I love SIP construction is it's so incredibly stable. It's really easy and safe to walk on. You still got to be in a harness and all the
Well,
rest.
it's not the getting up that's the problem, Matt. It's the getting down.
Yeah. Well, gravity really does all
It's
the work.
the
If you
landing.
think about it, that abrupt stop at the end is an issue.
I mean, some of us have more padding than others, and our landings aren't quite as bad.
But using drones for stuff like that, it's a great idea because there's all sorts of things that may have been designed, maybe not designed properly, that a drone will be able to see up for a roof that, oh man, we need a cricket over there or something like that to get proper drainage off a roof.
Yeah,
It could easily be missed that the inspector will never see it.
Well, here's what I really like about it is that up until now, you've had to trust the guy. He's the cheap bid.
Yeah.
You've had to trust this guy to go up there and convince you that you need a new roof for whatever reason. Maybe you do, but you don't know. You're just getting a piece of paper.
Right.
Guy says, now, of course, they take pictures and they'll take pictures of the bad spots and all that. Okay. But now you can sit there with the roofer. You can look at the laptop or the screen, whatever it is, while they're flying the drone around your roof and showing you why you need a new roof or showing you how you need improvements on your roof.
Yeah.
I love that whole concept.
Yeah.
The roofers have all the roofers I know are great people. They're very hardworking people, but they have a really dubious reputation,
Well,
and
the
it's
fly-by-night
well
companies.
deserved. Yes.
Yeah. That are just shady.
This is another way to sort of clean that up, in my view. Now, the only thing that I see, so if you go down this road and you decide you want this drone inspection of your roof, that's fine. That's great. I love it. The only thing I see that could be missing from that is that when I'm on a roof, I'm feeling for things like soft spots and things like that.
Right.
So there's some aspect of it that you're not going to get with the drone. But all in all, I think it's a huge. I think it's safety wise, no one's going to come tumbling off your roof, and you can actually cover the entire roof. So I really love the idea.
I love the idea as well, and I agree with you. At the same time, there's just no replacing for having somebody up there walking around, touching, feeling.
Yeah. Well, I've reached out to these folks. I'm going to try and get them to do an interview with us soon. So we can discuss it, and we'll put the screws to them, and we'll test them hard. We'll make sure that this is.
Are you going to have them fly a drone around the studio?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think I mean, I've got my roof. We could inspect it. It's nice. Although we already have our roof inspection camera up top. So when you watch the beginning of the video, you'll see us. I had to show Matt how to wave. He wasn't waving well this morning.
Couldn't see it well.
So
Backlit.
What's going on in the world of Matt? Well, in the world of James Andrews Custom Homes, you have some projects going?
Got some projects going, got some stuff on the drafting table that we're working on. I have a house for myself that I'm in the design process of.
Gosh.
And
I thought you liked yourself.
I do, and I love my wife. And let me tell you, builders have all the same stresses going through this process that
I think
clients
it's
do
worse.
with everybody else.
I think it's worse.
It may be worse. I certainly
because
wouldn't tell
every
my wife
time
that.
I sit down and want to watch the news and have my salad at night, I have to look over and wonder what my wife is thinking. She's going, when, Alex, are you going to fix the fence? I go, hey, you got fingers? Call somebody. It never works.
At that point, do you explain how more and more women are getting into the trades? And
let's help the women in the trades, honey. Hey, it's been really a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate you coming in today.
Well,
and
thank you for having me again. I can't believe you asked me back.
It's always good. I couldn't find anybody else.
I get it.
No, actually, Matt and I are really good friends, and he's just such a quality person and really, really a quality builder. So if you're thinking about building a house, consider SIPs. It's a great alternative, and Matt can explain it to you, and he's the guy to call. So we really appreciate everybody today. We appreciate Ziggy Becker, our engineer. He is the man that makes it happen. And we appreciate On Air Media for letting us broadcast out of their studios in our dungeon down here at the world headquarters. It's not a dungeon. It's a great studio. Also, thank you, Dick Kawalek and Matt Mitchell, for spending time with us today. You guys are awesome. And stay tuned, and Mr. Ron Taylor will tell you how to find us on all of our other social media platforms. I'm Alex Guthrie, signing off. Until next week, have a good week.
Sometimes it's a question of do I call or don't I call the foundation repair company? Well, what if I tell you that I know a foundation repair company that will tell you if you don't need foundation repair? That's right. Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation Repair has been in business for over 50 years, and they know the difference. One of the last family-owned foundation repair businesses in North Texas. Not only are they honest, they know what causes your foundation to move, and they know how to fix it. Don't be duped by fly-by-night foundation companies that provide shortcuts and messy fixes. Call Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation Repair at 972-442-3415 at the first sign of trouble. Hargrave uses the Chance helical pier system exclusively because it's the highest quality, most reliable helical pier money can buy. 972-442-3415 or contact them at hargravefoundation.com.
You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle at Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.